Before we start, I want to say that only 1% of you are subscribed. Please subscribe because when we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will post a special video for you. David maneuvered through the bustling spaceport with practiced ease, his eyes scanning the crowd for his next business opportunity. The port, a melting pot of various species and ships, hummed with the energy of countless deals being made. As he passed a particularly crowded customs line, he noticed a figure that stood out: a slender, tall woman with a complexion like woven leaves, unmistakably not human. She seemed to be struggling to communicate with the customs officer, her delicate hands gesturing towards a sealed container filled with vibrant foliage. Curious, David approached the scene. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his voice calm and friendly. The woman turned to him, her eyes widening slightly, a mixture of frustration and relief in her gaze. "Yes, I am trying to explain that these are samples for botanical research, not for trade or sale," she explained, her accent thick and musical. The officer looked unconvinced, thumbing through a datapad with a frown. "Regulations say all plant matter needs a quarantine clearance. You got that, miss?" David stepped closer. "Maybe I can help? I'm familiar with the quarantine procedures here." He offered a reassuring smile to the woman, who looked back at him with hopeful eyes. "Thank you, I would appreciate your assistance," she replied, her voice smooth as flowing water. After a few minutes of discussion and showing the proper documentation from his own datapad, David managed to convince the officer to let the woman Lyria, as she introduced herself, pass through with her plans. "Thank you so much," Lyria said as they walked away from the customs booth. "I was worried they would confiscate my research specimens." "It's no problem at all," David replied. "I know how tricky these ports can be. I'm David, by the way. I deal in rare minerals, but I have a soft spot for botany. Couldn't help but notice the Galian ferns in your collection, quite rare outside your home system." Lyria's lips curled into a smile. "Yes, I'm impressed. Not many recognize Galian ferns. I'm Lyria, from Thessalia Prime. I'm here to meet with some colleagues from the Galactic Botanical Society." As they made their way through the port to a quieter area, David was intrigued. "I'd love to hear more about your work. Maybe over a drink? I know a place that serves the best glacial melt on this side of the galaxy." Lyria considered his offer for a moment, then nodded. "That sounds delightful. I could use a break after that stressful encounter." They found themselves at a small bar overlooking the docking bays, where ships of all sizes and shapes glittered against the backdrop of deep space. As they sat, their conversation flowed from botanical sciences to the quirks of intergalactic trade. "I've always been fascinated by the diversity of plant life across the galaxy," David said, sipping his drink. "Each species tells a story, don't you think?" "Absolutely," Lyria agreed, her enthusiasm evident. "Plants are the basis of life on many planets. They're more than just flora, they're a cornerstone of ecosystems. My mission is to understand and preserve that." David listened intently, finding her passion for botany both endearing and enlightening. "Sounds like a noble cause. The universe could use more guardians like you." As the evening drew on, they shared stories and laughed, the initial awkwardness replaced by a budding friendship. David felt a connection that went beyond mere professional interest. There was something about Lyria's spirit that drew him in. "I'm glad I bumped into you today," he confessed as they prepared to part ways. "And you," Lyria said with a warm smile. "Perhaps we can meet again? I would enjoy discussing more about our fields. It's rare to find someone so engaged in the universe's botanical wonders." "Count on it," David replied, the promise of future meetings sparking a new excitement in his chest. As he watched her retreating figure, he couldn't help but feel that this chance encounter might just blossom into something remarkable. The morning light filtered through the high dome of the spaceport, casting a serene glow over the greenhouses nestled in Sector 7. David had arranged to meet Lyria at her working space, intrigued by her research and eager to learn more about the botanical treasure she nurtured. As he approached the greenhouse, he saw Lyria already waiting at the entrance, surrounded by an array of plants that seemed to thrive under her care. She greeted him with a bright smile. "Good to see you again, David. I'm glad you could come," she said, stepping aside to let him enter the lush environment. The air inside was humid and rich with the scent of earth and foliage. David took a deep breath, appreciating the pure atmosphere. "This place is incredible, Lyria. It's like stepping onto another planet." Lyria laughed softly, leading him through rows of exotic plants. "In a way, it is. These are species from my home world, Thessalia Prime, along with others from various corners of the galaxy. Each one has its own story." She stopped in front of a tall plant with luminescent leaves. "This is the starlight amaryllis. It's bioluminescent during the Thessian night cycle. Quite a sight to behold. David reached out, his fingers hovering over the leaves. May I? Of course, Lyria nodded. The moment his skin touched the leaves, the plant emitted a soft, glowing light. David chuckled in amazement. That's incredible. It's like it's alive. All plants are alive, Lyria corrected gently, but some are more interactive than others. They moved on to a small, delicate flower with an intricate pattern of veins running through its petals. And this, Lyria began, is a whispering bloom. Listen closely. David leaned in, and to his surprise, the flower emitted a low, melodic hum. It's singing, he whispered, a look of wonder on his face. It is, Lyria confirmed. It's said to be communicating through vibrations in the air, which can be soothing to other plants and people. As they continued, David's respect for Lyria's work grew. It was one thing to hear about her passion and another to see her in her element, explaining the complexities of each species with expertise and affection. Eventually, they reached a secluded bench surrounded by fragrant blossoms. Lyria invited him to sit. I brought you here for more than just a tour. I have a proposal. David raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Oh? I'm listening. I've been granted funding to expand my research, and I need a partner with knowledge of intergalactic trade. Someone who understands the delicate balance of ecosystems and economies, Lyria explained, her gaze earnest. I think you could be that person, David. David took a moment to consider, his mind racing with the possibilities. Working with Lyria could open new horizons, not just in business but in his understanding of the universe. What exactly would this partnership entail? Research trips, cultivation of new species, possibly even some advocacy work. We'd be working to ensure that plant species from endangered ecosystems are preserved and reintegrated, Lyria outlined. I believe your experience in trade and negotiation would be invaluable. It sounds like a significant commitment, David mused, not without excitement. But also a worthwhile one. I'm in, Lyria. Let's do this. Lyria's smile was radiant. Thank you, David. With your help, I believe we can make a real difference. As they shook hands, an unspoken agreement was formed. Not just a business arrangement, but a mutual dedication to a cause greater than themselves. David left the greenhouse with a new sense of purpose, eager to embark on this unexpected journey with Lyria by his side. The evening found David and Lyria at Zephyr's Gaze, a renowned eatery famous for its panoramic views of the starlit galaxy and its menu that boasted dishes from across the cosmos. It was their first official outing since deciding to partner up, and the air between them was filled with anticipation and mutual curiosity. As they were seated at a secluded table by the window, Lyria looked out at the stars with an expression of awe. It never ceases to amaze me, the sheer beauty of it all, she remarked, her voice tinged with wonder. David grinned, glancing out the window before turning back to her. It's something, isn't it? Makes you feel both incredibly small and immensely important at the same time. The waiter soon arrived, offering them a digital menu. David suggested they order a variety of dishes to share, to which Lyria readily agreed, eager to sample the diverse offerings. They chose a collection of small plates, crystalline shrimp from Aquarian, spiral veggies wrapped in Zeltron leaves, and a platter of assorted fruits that glowed faintly in the dim light of the restaurant. As they waited for their food, their conversation delved into their personal histories. David shared stories of his early days in trading, hopping from one sector to another, learning the ropes of a cutthroat business. Lyria listened intently, her eyes sparkling with interest. What about you, Lyria? What was it like, growing up on Thessalia Prime? David asked, genuinely curious about her background. Lyria's smile was tinged with nostalgia as she began to recount her youth. Thessalia is a world where nature dictates life. I spent most of my childhood in the Great Verdant, a massive forest where the canopy stretches so high, it blocks out the sun. That's where I learned to love the plants, to understand them. Their food arrived, and as they began to eat, the flavors seemed to enhance their storytelling. Lyria described her first discovery of a rare plant species during an expedition, her excitement palpable. David was fascinated. It sounds like being a botanist on your planet is more of an adventure than a job. It often is, Lyria laughed. But it's not without its challenges. Much like your trading ventures, I imagine? Exactly, David agreed. He then shared a particularly harrowing tale of a deal gone wrong in the Outer Rim, leaving Lyria wide-eyed. As they continued to exchange stories, the barrier of formality between them dissolved, replaced by a warm camaraderie. The meal turned into a celebration of their shared enthusiasm for the unknown and the adventurous spirits that drove them both. Towards the end of the evening, As they sampled a dessert made from ice cream that smoked with liquid nitrogen, David raised his glass in a toast. "To new partnerships and exploring the unknown," he said, his tone earnest. Lyria clinked her glass against his. "To understanding the past and securing the future," she added, her voice steady and confident. As they left the restaurant, the cool air of the spaceport night enveloping them, both felt a renewed sense of purpose. Their project was not just about business or science, it was about bridging worlds, understanding life in its myriad forms, and forging a path together through the stars. Walking back to the greenhouse, their steps light and conversation easy, David felt a profound gratitude for the turn his life had taken. Beside him, Lyria shared her thoughts on some experimental ideas for their project, her enthusiasm infectious. David nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. "Let's get to it then. There's a whole universe of flora waiting for us." Lyria smiled, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "And we're just getting started." The annual Galactic Alignment Festival had drawn visitors from every corner of the universe to the spaceport. The festival, a celebration of when several planets aligned in a rare astronomical event, was marked by lights, music, and a shared sense of wonder. David and Lyria found themselves among the throngs of diverse species, each participant adorned in traditional garb that glittered under the celestial fireworks. David, dressed in simple human attire with a few added accessories from Lyria's culture, turned to her with a wide grin. "I never tire of this festival. It's a reminder of how small our differences really are when you look at the grand scheme of things." Lyria, whose outfit was a vibrant blend of Thessian flora fabrics and human-style cuts, mirrored his excitement. "It's beautiful, David. In Thessalia, we have a similar celebration, but seeing it with so many different beings. It's more exhilarating than I anticipated." They moved through various stalls, sampling food and collecting artifacts. At one stall, an artisan specializing in cosmic jewelry explained the significance of each piece. David listened intently as Lyria engaged the artisan in a deep discussion about the materials used, all sourced from meteors and comets. "Would you wear something like this?" Lyria asked, holding up a necklace with a pendant that seemed to hold a tiny, glowing galaxy within it. "I think I'd prefer to see it on you," David replied, his voice lower than before, eyes not leaving hers. Flushed with a mixture of surprise and delight, Lyria bought the necklace and allowed David to fasten it around her neck. The touch of his fingers against her skin sparked a tension neither had anticipated. As the night progressed, they found themselves at a viewing platform, perfect for watching the alignment. The crowd's excitement palpable, David and Lyria stood side by side, closer than before. The moment the planets aligned, the crowd cheered, but David and Lyria were caught in a moment of their own. David turned to Lyria, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "Lyria, I..." But he was cut off as Lyria stepped closer, placing a finger over his lips. "I know," she whispered, her eyes locked onto his. Without another word, she bridged the gap between them, her lips meeting his in a kiss that felt inevitable. The kiss was gentle at first, exploratory, as if they were both testing the reality of the moment. But as the cheers around them grew louder, so did their passion, the kiss deepening, driven by all the unspoken feelings that had been simmering between them. When they finally broke apart, the alignment was reaching its peak, the planets glowing brightly in the sky. The crowd's noise faded into the background, their shared breaths the only sound that mattered. "David, what are we doing?" Lyria asked, her voice a mix of concern and desire. David took her hands in his thumbs caressing her palms. "I don't know, but it feels right, doesn't it?" Lyria nodded, her uncertainty fading as she looked into his eyes. "It does. But what about?" "Let's not worry about the whatabouts just for tonight," David interrupted, squeezing her hands reassuringly. "Tonight, it's just us and the stars." They spent the rest of the evening together, enjoying the festival's activities, but more so enjoying each other's company. Each shared story, each shared laugh, deepened their connection, turning the professional partnership into something much more personal. As the festival wound down, they walked back to Lyria's greenhouse hand in hand, not speaking much, but saying everything that needed to be said in their shared silence. Reaching her door, Lyria turned to David. "Thank you for tonight. For everything." David smiled, leaning in to kiss her forehead gently. "Thank you, Lyria. For opening up your world to me." As he walked away, the alignment behind him and a new alignment beginning in his heart, David knew that their relationship had crossed into uncharted territory. But as every star navigator knows, the uncharted territories often lead to the most remarkable discoveries. After the festival, the dynamic between David and Lyria shifted, charged with a new, palpable energy. David found himself visiting Lyria's greenhouse more frequently, not just for project collaboration but also to spend time with her in the peaceful sanctuary among the plants. On one such visit, the air was heavy with the fragrance of blooming night blossoms, their glow casting ethereal lights around the greenhouse. Lyria was tending to a particularly fickle species that thrived under her care. She looked up as David entered, her smile warm. "David, you're just in time to help me with the night blooms. They're particularly radiant tonight," she said, gesturing toward the delicate flowers. David approached, taking in the sight. "They're amazing, Lyria. This place. It's a whole other world when the sun goes down." Lyria handed him a small sprayer filled with nutrients. "Here, they need a gentle touch." Working side by side, they tended to the plants in comfortable silence, the ease between them a testament to their growing closeness. After they finished, Lyria invited David to sit on a small bench nestled among the ferns. "David, about the festival night," she began, her voice hesitant. David turned to her, his expression open. "Yes? It was unexpected, wasn't it? The kiss, I mean," she said, looking at him directly, her expression a mix of curiosity and mild apprehension. "It was," David admitted, "but not unwelcome. At least, not for me." Lyria nodded, a gentle blush coloring her cheeks. "Nor for me. I've been thinking about it a lot." "Me too," David replied, his heart rate ticking up a notch. "Lyria, I'm not quite sure what this is or where it's going, but I'm willing to find out if you are." Lyria's hand found David's, her fingers intertwining with his. "I am. It's new, and it's a bit scary, but I feel something strong. Something good." Encouraged by her words, David leaned closer, his other hand brushing a stray leaf from her hair. Their eyes locked, and without needing to speak, they moved into a kiss, deeper and more assured than the last. The world around them seemed to quiet, the only sounds the rustle of leaves and their synchronized breathing. After a moment, they parted slightly, foreheads pressed together. "David, would you stay tonight? I'd like not to be alone," Lyria whispered, her voice barely above the sound of the rustling leaves. David responded by tightening his hold on her hand, his voice steady. "I'll stay. There's nowhere else I'd rather be." The night deepened around them, and inside the glow of the greenhouse, they explored this new aspect of their relationship. The physicality of their connection was a natural progression, an exploration driven by mutual desire and profound respect. As they finally settled into the quiet space, surrounded by the life they both cherished, it wasn't just the plants that were blooming. Something between them was blossoming too, growing stronger and more vibrant with each shared moment. Lyria spoke softly as they relaxed beside each other, her head resting against David's shoulder. "I've never felt this way before, David. It's like discovering a new species, exciting and a bit daunting." David chuckled softly, kissing the top of her head. "And like any good discovery, it takes time to understand, to truly appreciate. I'm here for all of it, Lyria." As they drifted off to sleep, the greenhouse around them seemed to embrace them, the plants a silent witness to their burgeoning love. The night blooms continued to glow softly, a natural nightlight, as if the universe itself approved of their union. David awoke to the gentle hum of the greenhouse, the early light filtering through the glass and casting dappled patterns on the floor. Lyria was still asleep beside him, her breathing even and calm. Watching her in the serene morning, David felt a profound connection, deeper than anything he had experienced before. After a quiet breakfast shared in the small kitchenette of Lyria's living quarters, they prepared for a day dedicated to their joint project. Today's agenda was particularly close to Lyria's heart, integrating a newly discovered floral species into the greenhouse ecosystem. As they worked side by side, transplanting delicate seedlings into prepared soil beds, Lyria looked over at David, her eyes bright with excitement and something more affection, clear and unguarded. "David, last night. And this morning," she started, pausing to find the right words. "It's all felt so natural, so right. What have you done to me, human? This is too intense." David stopped his work, his tools hanging mid-air as he processed her words. He set them down and took her hands in his. "Lyria, I feel the same. It's like we've started something that's quickly becoming bigger than us." "Yes, exactly," Lyria agreed, squeezing his hands. "It's exhilarating, and honestly, a bit overwhelming." They decided to take a break, walking through the various sections of the greenhouse, discussing not just their work but their feelings and hopes for the future. As they talked, it became evident that what had started as a professional partnership was evolving into a pivotal personal bond. "Do you think we're moving too fast?" David asked at one point, his voice tinged with a mix of hope and concern. Lyria considered this, watching a butterfly flit from one flower to another. Maybe, she admitted. But doesn't life sometimes move at its own pace? When something feels right, maybe we're just meant to follow. David nodded, feeling reassured by her words. Then let's promise to communicate, to be honest with our feelings and fears. Whatever this is, I want to navigate it together. Together, Lyria echoed, her voice firm. The day passed with them working more on their project but also deepening their understanding of each other. As they adjusted irrigation systems and checked light levels, they shared stories from their pasts, their ambitions, and their dreams. As evening approached, they set up a small, intimate dinner right in the middle of the greenhouse, surrounded by the sounds and sights of vibrant life. Over a meal of light, vegetable-centric dishes, they discussed the next steps for their project. "We're making good progress," David said, reviewing their data on a tablet. "The integration of the new species is going well, and the ecosystem seems to be adapting perfectly." Lyria smiled, pleased with the update. "It's a good metaphor for us, isn't it? Two very different species, finding a way to coexist and enrich each other." "That's one way to look at it," David chuckled. "And a pretty romantic one at that." Their conversation lingered long into the night, filled with laughter and shared contemplations. It was clear that their relationship was becoming deeply rooted, much like the plants they cared for. Before they retired for the night, David pulled Lyria into a slow dance among the plants, the only music the natural sounds of the greenhouse. As they swayed gently, Lyria rested her head against his chest. "Thank you, David, for being here, for being with me in this," she murmured. "Thank you, Lyria, for opening up your world to me," David replied, his voice low and full of emotion. "For everything." As they held each other close, the greenhouse around them not just a place of botanical research but also a new home for their budding love, the future seemed both thrilling and daunting. But together, they felt ready to face whatever came their way, guided by the shared light of their connection. David and Lyria's collaboration had not only flourished in the realm of botany but had blossomed into a deep, personal relationship that now faced its first real test. Word of their union had begun to ripple through their respective communities, bringing with it a mix of curiosity, skepticism, and in some corners, disapproval. One afternoon, as they were cataloging the growth patterns of a new hybrid plant, an unexpected visit from a delegation of Thessian diplomats and several of David's long-standing human colleagues disrupted their routine. The group entered the greenhouse with an air of formality that immediately set David on edge. "David," Lyria greeted Jonathan, a senior trader and one of David's mentors, his tone friendly but reserved. "We've heard about your recent endeavors, both scientific and personal. Some folks are concerned about the implications." Lyria, standing beside David, took a subtle deep breath, bracing herself. "We understand there might be concerns, but I assure you, our work is conducted with the utmost integrity. And our personal relationship does not conflict with our professional responsibilities." A Thessian diplomat, a tall figure clad in traditional robes, spoke next. "Lyria, your work is crucial to our understanding of interstellar botany. However, the union with a human, it's unprecedented. There's a fear it could complicate our diplomatic relations." David stepped forward, his voice firm. "With all due respect, our relationship enhances our work. We've made breakthroughs in adaptive ecosystems that could benefit multiple species. Isn't that the point of intergalactic cooperation?" The conversation was tense, with the visitors expressing their perspectives, sometimes in diplomatic terms, other times with less subtlety. David and Lyria listened, responded, and defended their position with a composed passion. As the delegation toured the greenhouse, Jonathan pulled David aside. "David, you know I've always supported your ventures, but this is different. People are talking. Aren't you worried about the backlash?" David looked towards Lyria, who was explaining a cultivation technique to a skeptical diplomat. "Jonathan, I've never been more certain of anything. Lyria and we're not just crossing cultural lines, we're trying to erase them. Our project could lead to sustainable solutions for food shortages and climate control across galaxies. How can we back down from that because it's controversial?" Jonathan sighed, his expression softening. "I see your point, David. Just be careful. You're charting unknown territories here." After the delegation left, Lyria and David regrouped, their spirits a mix of defiance and concern. "That could have gone worse," Lyria mused, half-jokingly. David chuckled. "True. But it's clear we have more than just scientific challenges to navigate." They spent the rest of the day refining their project presentation, strengthening their case with data and testimonials from other species who had benefited from their research. The scrutiny had lit a new fire under them, driving them to prove that their union was not only harmless but beneficial. Late in the evening, as they sat reviewing their documents, David reached for Lyria's hand. "Whatever happens, we're in this together, right?" Lyria squeezed his hand, her eyes meeting his with resolute warmth. Together. No matter what. Their determination solidified into a quiet resolve as they planned their next steps. They would need to be articulate, persuasive, and above all, united in the face of any opposition. The road ahead would be challenging, but their shared commitment to their cause and to each other was unwavering. As they locked up the greenhouse that night, the stars overhead seemed to watch over them, the constellations unchanged by human or Thessian politics. Under that vast canopy, David and Lyria reaffirmed their commitment to forge ahead, driven by the belief that understanding and cooperation could, in fact, transcend cultural and celestial boundaries. The day of the Neutral Council meeting had arrived, where David and Lyria would present their collaborative research and defend the legitimacy of their union both personally and professionally. The council chamber, a vast circular room with seating rising up in tiers, was filled with representatives from various planets, including human and Thessian officials. As they approached the podium, David felt Lyria's hand tighten around his. He gave her a reassuring squeeze. They had prepared for this moment meticulously, knowing the outcome could sway their future significantly. The head of the council, a wise old figure known for his impartiality, called the room to order. "We will now hear from David Rhodes and Lyria Thalassa regarding their joint venture in botanical research and interspecies relations. Please, proceed." David started, his voice clear and confident. "Honored members of the council, we stand before you not just as partners in research, but as symbols of what our species can achieve when we work together. Our project has not only yielded significant scientific breakthroughs but also stands as a testament to the potential for genuine understanding and cooperation between humans and Thessians." Lyria took over seamlessly, her tone passionate yet composed. "Our work focuses on developing adaptive ecosystems for planets affected by environmental degradation. Together, we have discovered methods to increase crop yields and improve soil regeneration rates, using combined knowledge from our diverse backgrounds." The room listened intently as they presented data and testimonials from planets where their projects had been implemented. The evidence was compelling, showcasing significant improvements in ecological balance and food stability. A Thessian diplomat rose to ask a question. "While your scientific achievements are notable, how do you address concerns about the implications of your personal relationship for our diplomatic protocols?" David responded, "Our relationship has only enhanced our work. The fusion of our perspectives has led to innovations neither of our species could have achieved alone. We believe it embodies the spirit of intergalactic cooperation that this council aims to promote." The discussion opened to the floor, with various delegates posing questions that ranged from technical aspects of their research to ethical considerations of interspecies relationships. David and Lyria answered each with thoughtful precision, their unity and mutual respect evident to all. As the session drew to a close, the head of the council summarized the sentiment of the room. "It is clear that Mr. Rhodes and Ms. Thalassa have not only advanced their field but have also challenged us to rethink our preconceptions about what is possible between species. It is the opinion of this council that their work should continue, supported and observed as a model for future endeavors." Relief washed over David and Lyria as the chamber erupted in a mixture of applause and murmurs. They had not only defended their project but had also successfully advocated for the potential of their union. As they exited the chamber, Lyria looked at David, her expression one of joy and vindication. "We did it, David. Not just for us, but for anyone who dares to imagine a universe where cooperation transcends all boundaries." David smiled, his heart full. "Yes, we did. It's just the beginning, though. There's so much more to do." Hand in hand, they walked back to their greenhouse, ready to continue their work with the support of the council and a renewed sense of purpose. Their relationship had been scrutinized and ultimately embraced, marking a new chapter for both of their lives and for the broader galaxy. As the stars twinkled above them, mirroring the lights of the spaceport, David and Lyria knew that their journey together was not just about pushing the boundaries of science but about breaking down barriers between worlds, one discovery at a time.